Hello everybody, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back with another episode with the UFL Week 2 going into Week 3. It looks to be pretty nice and pretty cool. The UFL looks to be more and more entertaining. I didn't catch any of the games this last weekend, just being really busy, and I probably won't get to catch any this weekend either, maybe the Sunday games. But they still look entertaining from all the the highlights, the recaps of information I've heard, and the scores. They all look like they actually were a lot more consistently fun, a little bit more back and forth. Love them. All of them have different narratives, and I like seeing it. So we like seeing the UFL doing pretty well. Got to see the MVP race, of course, Week 2 out of Week 10. So 8 more weeks of this stuff. Going to be really, really cool. But before we get into the video, please leave a like down below, comment suggestions for the channel, and subscribe if you have not already. So without further ado, let's get into a UFL Week 2 and Week 3 recap, power rankings, and predictions. So first of all, on screen you see San Antonio Brahmas heading over to Memphis against the Showboats. Actually, Showboats performed pretty well against this team because Brahmas actually have been really, really electric. Probably the breakout team, in my opinion, of how well they've been doing. Garber's probably the best quarterback-looking person in the whole league right now. I genuinely think in the UFL, Garber's is probably the most talented QB this season so far, easily. The rushing game was almost non-existent for the Brahmas, so that's kind of weird. Honestly, a lot of these teams don't have a good rushing ability. I've noticed that for the last 2 weeks, so it's been mostly passing. But the receivers, they've been going. Stevenson got major yardage here, especially a long receiving. I don't think it was a touchdown. I don't think was that the touchdown? I think it was a touchdown. And then Latimer also receiving a lot of yards. So Brahmas are like chucking up in the air and getting a bunch of people involved. In terms of the Memphis Showboats, they're talented. They got the talent there. Their run game is probably one of the better ones in the league. Their defense is doing all right. It's just that their Cookus is just not doing it for me. He's not cooking. He's cooking a little bit. He's not cooking a whole lot. They were doing really, really well in the beginning, and then the Brahmas just went and came back. 20 points in the fourth quarter, I believe. Garbers really did well. Even then, before I think the Brahmas were doing well, they just couldn't finish any drives. That was a problem with them, mostly because they didn't have a run game. They couldn't rely on Garbers the whole time. Garbers would make a couple good throws, but then they would get stopped. So that was kind of the story of the game. Was the Showboats kind of consistently were doing run game, get into field goal range, or score, stuff like that. But Brahmas couldn't do anything up until the fourth quarter, where they just went explosive onto the Showboats and came back. So good for them. They did really, really well. Last minute win. I believe it was a field goal win too. So pretty damn good if you don't say so myself. Defensively, again, you kind of looking at all these scores. There's a couple sacks, a couple tackles for loss. I mean, Brahmas have a good defense, solid defense. And even the Showboats, they just made stops. They made the stops. Like I said, the running game of the Brahmas was non-existent. Well, mostly also because they were behind. Probably in the second and third quarter. I shouldn't judge them for the run game because they didn't really use it in the second or third quarter. Well, I guess they used it kind of in the second quarter. You know what I mean. So can't really judge them too much in that regard. But they still, I think, are one of the better teams. Are really moving up my power rankings, to be honest with you. I'm really high on the Brahmas. Memphis Showboats, just are kind of, they're mid. Mid for UFL. So we'll see how they kind of proceed going forward. But I like both these teams just fine. Memphis Showboats probably going to end up being my team since I'm from Tennessee. All that good stuff. But we'll go into Arlington Renegades and Battlehawks. And honestly, this probably looked like the game of the week pretty easily. They just had a barn burner when it came to passing. McCarran, sorry, and Perez. Shootouts with each other, back and forth, back and forth. First quarter's a little bit slow, but then second, third quarter seemed like it'd be really explosive. Fourth quarter got gritty, really, really gritty. But man, the Battlehawks rushing ability, best. Definitely, I said the Showboats have a good one. Battlehawks have the best one. So really good on the Battlehawks. I mean, they just Durant is just so good. Not Kevin Durant, of course, but still very good. And even then, like they get a couple people involved for major yardage here, while the Renegades get more people involved. I feel like just get a lot more of the showcase of everybody on there. Defensively, though, both of them I think are pretty even in this game. Of course, it was actually not very stat heavy. Unless there's not many sacks here. Well, there's like one more sack on this team and like 2 more tackles for loss for the Battlehawks. So take that as you will. But honestly, both games still went back and forth, both defensively and offensively. So these teams were very evenly stacked up. Battlehawks ended up with a win though, so no surprise there. Love the Battlehawks, so they're doing pretty dang well. Stallions versus Panthers. It seemed like this was not very highlight heavy, mostly because again. Looking at the Stallions, Matt Corral got hurt, I believe. He got hurt, I believe. So Martinez came in, so they just kind of, played that out. While Perry just didn't, Perry did fine. He's a consistent, fine quarterback. Meanwhile, the run games were just completely different with the Stallions having a good run game, better run game, more split run game too, over the Panthers who have like nothing and really couldn't afford to do it at some point too as well. Stallions and the Panthers receiving. It seems like the Panthers have more of a talented upper receivers, but Stallions have more consistent middle of the road receivers. So that was kind of a unique kind of take there for the what's called the teams there on the offense. The defensive side of things, I actually don't know the stats on this one, but I'm guessing the Panthers did pretty poorly. Yeah, no sacks, couple tackles for loss, while the Stallions were a little bit more consistent overall with one interception from them as well, of course. So yeah, Stallions, I think it's weird. I think they're the best team, but also they just kind of play slightly above their opponent. They don't like go out and explode any other team out. That's kind of what I've learned from them. But they're playing consistently well. They're still 2-0. Stallions are 2-0. So take that as you will. Then we got the Roughnecks and DC Defenders. Probably the game that kind of was turned out the least for, because I kind of watched these in order. So I kind of pay attention and boom, boom, boom. But this one didn't look very interesting, to be honest with you. DC Defenders, as much as I like them, it's mostly because of their defense, I guess. Their defense is just, I think, good. While the Roughnecks just... I don't know. I don't find the Roughnecks very interesting as well, but they did fine. I mean, they probably did middle of the road type team. They did pretty well. Run game that was non-existent for them. Receiving is whatever. You can make observations here. They actually have good top-heavy receivers here. While DC Defenders, again, I'm not impressed with their passing. I'm not impressed with their receiving. It's really just their defense. And as you see here, a lot of solo tackles here, 1 sack and a lot of tackles for loss. 7 tackles for loss. They kill it when it comes to the run game against other people's run game. They do very well. And then Roughnecks, I mean, they didn't have much. They got 2 sacks and then 6 tackles for loss, actually, so that was pretty good. But they also got an interception, which I don't think DC Defenders did. So I don't know. I think that DC Defenders seem more entertaining for their defense. They somehow keep the Roughnecks on edge and not able to really let the Roughnecks finish any of their drives. So that's what the kind of story was for me. Well, the Roughnecks, just in general, I just don't know if they really could get anything going. Didn't feel like their wheels were turning all the way through. I mean, both teams battled it back and forth, while DC Defenders had a slight comeback near the end. So take that as you will. Probably, again, I mean, you could probably say the Stallions and the Panthers, or Roughnecks and Defenders. This is probably my least favorite game personally, because I like the more gritty Stallions versus Panthers game. But I could also see the Stallions and Panthers being a slightly worse game. But either way, that's kind of a quick recap of all these games, just kind of some thoughts of the players and all that good stuff. But now it's time to go into the official power rankings. So here we go. We have the Week 3 power rankings and predictions, for UFL. This is kind of interesting stuff because there's actually some big movers in my opinion. Stallions stay on top. They're 2-0. They're the best team going into the league this year. I believe all other teams have either significantly drive themselves out of a hole, or they have not consistently done well. While Stallions have consistently done well, even if it's not like amazing, so they're not like so far above people, but like they're getting there. DC Defenders, I think they're while they won for one against a decent team, I believe so. Like, take that as you will. Their offense wasn't amazing, but their defense and their run game, probably mostly their defense, because the run game this week wasn't that great. They just kind of go over the Renegades and the Panthers for me, personally. So they go up +2. While the Renegades go -1 again. They're still a very consistently good team, but they had to fall a little bit for the loss. They still had a pretty decent margin on a lot of these other teams. So losing 1 to the DC Defenders, who were already ranked pretty high, is pretty nice. Well, the Brahmas make the biggest jump. I think with the Panthers, Battlehawks, and Roughnecks not really impressing me. Other than Battlehawks. Battlehawks kind of impressed me, but the Brahmas were already ahead of them, I believe. Well, the Showboats, I think, were right above the Brahmas. So they get the past 3 teams pretty easily. I just think the Panthers, Roughnecks, and Showboats all did pretty poorly, while Brahmas, I think, just did electric, and I think they deserve to be top 4. Being undefeated, you should be up there. Panthers, again, I think they're one of those middle-of-the-road teams. I think they're going to be able to be very capable of winning and possibly even taking a playoff spot. It's just that they don't impress me. While Battlehawks are also kind of like the Brahmas. I like them a lot. They're playing pretty well, and I think they could be more of a kind of a low-key team with like the 8-2, 7-3 record type deal to be up there. While the Roughnecks and the Showboats, I just think both the teams don't impress me very much. Roughnecks slightly impress me more, but the Memphis Showboats are not too far behind. Take it as you will. I'm not too sure about those 2 teams as much, so I'll probably try to focus on their games this next week, but we'll definitely see. As for predictions, by the way, I've realized the check marks are out of order, but I don't want to change it. So DC Defenders versus the Renegades. I do have some betting odds here for a couple of the games. I did have some of the betting odds, but I guess I closed out of it. Either way, the favorites are basically the Renegades, the Stallions, Panthers, and Battlehawks. So kind of right, left, or home, away. But my first choice is going to be the DC Defenders. I think, in my opinion, they're still... I think they're going to eventually show that spark. They're showing a little bit of it, while the Renegades, I think, are very capable of winning this. I believe, of course, they're favored. But I have a good feeling about DC Defenders. They play gritty defense, while the Renegades still play a little sloppy and are still getting into the groove of things this season. So I think it's a close game, probably the closest in my predictions. But I got to go DC Defenders for now. As kind of one of my upsets. Now we're gonna go down to the Sunday, April 14th game next, the Roughnecks versus the Panthers, and I'm gonna go Panthers. Again, I don't like the Roughnecks. I think the Panthers deserve to go well. I think the Roughnecks are winless so far, so I think it's appropriate. Give the Panthers a win and say call it a day. As for the Battlehawks and Brahmas, as much I love both these teams a lot, and this is also a really, really close one, but I am gonna go with the favorite in the Battlehawks. The Battlehawks are pretty good, and I think the Brahmas are on a good full head of steam. They are capable of winning this as well. I like both these teams again, but I think the Battlehawks have something special going on. I think they're going to kind of go on a little win streak here. We'll see if they're able to kind of upset the Brahmas, or not upset, but they're to win against the Brahmas, who I think have been very surprising. But I think they'll show a little bit more of their colors week 3, week 4, week 5, kind of progress. I think they're a very capable team. I think they're still one of the top half teams, but I think we're going to see them kind of align somewhere in the middle in the next 2 to 3 weeks type deal. Then finally, we have the Stallions taking over the Showboats. I probably will be betting against Showboats almost every game of the weeks, because I don't like them. I think they're probably easily the worst team in the UFL. I think the Roughnecks at least have talent. I just don't like watching them personally. So this is kind of my predictions this week. I did go 3-1 last week, so now I'm up to officially 4-4. I may put that on the sides next time or something. Either way, though, thank you guys for watching, and if you want to see more UFL content, please let me know in the comments below. See you guys later. StraightA out.